So I'm Oliver Watts, and this is the second time that I've done a piece in the Oxford Art Factory for Freefall. So this is the first time I've done it by myself. The title, it was going to be a different work, which we'll probably get to. So I don't know if I ended up retitling the work, but I guess what I was trying to be was a bit of a court painter. It was really a tableau vivant, really, where it's just was our studio at the Oxford Art Factory. So I brought milk crates, I brought my easel, I brought all my paints, all my brushes. I mean, I brought all my brushes and then didn't use any, or used 3 or something, but it was just the look of the studio at the Oxford Art Factory. So I guess in a way it was a sort of theatrical, well, it was the theatricalisation of a painting studio at the Oxford Art Factory, which I think is interesting because a lot of the other performances for Freefall have been more in the performance vein, whereas I think mine was more really tableau vivant. And maybe the reason why I did that was because last time when Tim and I did the Royal Wedding, and also the Freefalls that I've liked, the Freefall performances that I've really liked are the ones that are either really relational or socially engaged, like like a juice van or a juice bar and things like that, or because I feel that the glass cube is quite disconnected, like with the glass, that it is like a shop window or something. So it's good to set up one image, I think, for people to see, and that's what gave me the idea of the tableau vivant. So like, just so that, you could look for a split second and see a painter in a studio, or you could watch for longer. And I mean, I was a bit worried that the intervention would be too slight. We've been asked to paint, can you be the crazy painter at a party? And, we always say no, like you can't really do painting as performance. But then I thought, well, sort of why not? And recently I saw that there's an Icelandic artist, a young artist, who represented Iceland in the Biennale, the Venice Biennale in 2009, called Reine Kjartansson. And he sort of did a tableau vivant, but it was much more endurance for him. It was 6 months where he and another artist just made a tableau vivant of really the artist and the model. And the whole show was that he painted a painting every day for the 6 months. So one painting every day until the whole Biennale, this big warehouse, was covered in this painting of this other artist. And I think the reason was, in that case, was that Iceland was so poor because they just had that huge economic crash, that his idea was, let's not do something massively spectacular, but let's just go back to basics where I can bring an easel, I can bring paints, I can bring a canvas, and that's the show. But what we did, I mean, the conceptual aspect of it was that I painted Mark Gerber, who's the patron of Freefall. So in that way, it's a subtle, or it's a small intervention, but it worked sort of better than I thought. One of the things was that when we finished, like just go to the end, so like it was 4 hours of painting. So, and at the end of the 4 hours, there was a portrait of Mark Gerber. And as we left and the dancing was still going on, it was as if this painting of Mark Gerber under the spots was overseeing his club. That it did sort of do more of a commemoration. It wasn't as ironic as I thought it would end up being. It was sort of did work as an effigy for Mark Gerber. And I'm sort of interested in that aspect of the portrait painting. I know that the Oxford Art Factory has done a lot of street art, and street art is performative. It's performative painting, that with spray paint and, you can cap your own work and come over the top. Whereas sort of the fact that mine was so slow, and I sort of did on purpose, did a bit more layered, sort of, I did a sort of Renaissance underpainting, which, I didn't have to do, you start with the raw umber, and then I went with sort of these golden greens, which was a bit more Rembrandt-y, and then the pinks came over the top. So I sort of did do an old-fashioned layering process, just to slow it all down. So another thing that I think interested me was I was bringing art back to work. I mean, I know that, you know, when people do endurance performances, and there have been some great endurance performance pieces at Freefall before, you always feel that work of the artist. And I think that that was actually possibly the most successful thing for me, was that I felt that this was my working studio. You don't usually show it. It's sort of a little bit uncool. But what it did show was that for that time that I was supposed to be in the Freefall cube, I worked quite hard to get a portrait done, sort of as a performance, as a tableau vivant of a man painting a portrait, an artist painting a portrait in studio. But it sort of did feel like real work. And I don't know, it's sort of a bit anachronistic, I guess, that, you know, that art has that, you know, in this post-industrial world where the artist is the service provider, that, you know, we just rock up and, you know, we do that a lot more with Gregory and Watts, you know, we provide the audio guide. But even that is still like real work. There's like real content and real hours that go into the research and in the work. And I thought that that was sort of interesting in a hyper-capitalist sense. I sort of brought myself back to being just the worker.